So this week I want to talk about two key terms that I've probably thrown around a couple times already, multimodality and multimediality. These terms are very similar in their meaning, and you'll often hear them used interchangeably, and in most situations that works, but they actually do have two distinct meanings, and so we're going to talk about that for a moment. Multimodality is multi-mode, and so it's using multiple modes, which requires defining mode. It refers to how meaning is encoded and decoded. So a mode is a meaning-making mechanism, such as words or color symbolism or any number of different things that we can manipulate to make the meaning. This is different than multimedia or multimediality, which is using multiple media, or the singular is medium. So a medium refers to the physicality of it. So when we talk about multimedia, we mean the physicality of it, of the text, is many parts. So if you talk to an artist, for instance, and you say, what medium do you work in? And they'll answer very easily. They'll say, well, I do acrylic on canvas, or I work in clay, which is very different than what modes they might be using. So that same artist using acrylic on canvas may be using color as a mode, may be using line as a mode to make meaning. They may choose not to use color. That's also a choice. They've eliminated a mode then. If an artist says that they are doing a work that is multimedia, then what they might mean is that they're combining different physical artistic materials. And so like if you go to an art museum and it says multimedia on a piece, then what you know is that they've combined things. Like it might be a sculpture that combines found objects, that combines, say, clay and metal, or something else that would conventionally be found on its own, but here is being put together. So maybe you are using a technique that combines acrylic and watercolor because they have different properties. So that would be multimedia. Like I said, they're often used interchangeably. So why are we talking about this right now? Well, as you expand into real world kind of applications outside of school for research, you're going to find that right now most things are presented in a multimodal and often a multimedia way. So you're going to have to be able to talk about these things and to recognize these things when you see them. So when you are planning a project such as this blog post that you're working on, you want to consider what kinds of modes and media are available to you and which ones you intend to use. So I've already prescribed the basic media. You know it's going to be on a digital screen, right? So you have to optimize it for that. But I have not prescribed all the modes that you might use. Obviously, you have to use words, printed words, and so that's one mode. But there's a lot of other meaning-making modes you can use. I've also asked you to include at least one image. So that's another mode, or possibly another medium if you prefer to think of it that way. Because within that image you may have multiple modes. So what other modes might you use? Well, color is a mode. I don't know if you've noticed, but on our Blackboard page, when there's something that you have to turn in for points, I've marked it in a dark red most of the time when I remember to do it. Whereas if it's something that you just have to read to prepare for such a thing, I've marked it in black for the title. So that is actually a meaning-making mode that I've been using. I haven't explained it, but it was a way for me to reinforce the icons and stuff that Blackboard uses automatically. So color is an option, obviously, and you have to think about what the associations with the colors you're using are. If you use red, often that has negative associations. It's a stop, it's a danger. If you use green, that can have positive associations, except certain shades of green, which might indicate sickliness. So you want to think about how you're using your colors. Um, you want to think about your fonts. Different fonts have different meanings. The very shape of the font will have a meaning. The the weight of it. Some fonts carry meaning because they have a cultural connotation, like Comic Sans. I would steer away from, even though it's a wonderfully legible sans serif font. Um, it's gotten such a bad rep that it now has a cultural meaning that you probably want to avoid unless you're specifically writing your posts for children or something like that. Um, and so you want to think very carefully about the various modes that are available to you. There are also multiple media available to you. You can embed an audio file, you can embed a video file. Obviously, a picture has already been requested. You could even, if you're feeling really adventurous, embed something interactive. There are platforms available for making that happen. That being said, you want to think about what's called affordances. And affordances are what you can do in a given medium. And we talk about affordances with modes as well. What are the options available to you? So, for instance, this video option that I'm using right now, what are the things I can do in this video that I couldn't do with just still images or PowerPoint presentation or whatever? Um, and what are some of the things I can't do in this video? What are some of the things I could do with video, but I'm choosing not to do? So you have to think carefully about your choices when you choose to include a given media in your project. So as we start expanding the topics of this course out into spaces beyond academic assignments and into things that you are actively choosing to do because you have some reason that you want to get that done, beyond just a grade, you start thinking about what kind of media and modes are around you all the time and what the availability of those modes and media can be to you and how you can combine them in novel and effective ways.